Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets, with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
Hello, book lovers. Welcome to Must Love Books. Hello, and welcome back to Must Love Books podcast. Today, I am here with Allie Samberts, a romance writer, book lover, and high school English teacher. She was voted Funniest Teacher of the Year for 2023 by her students, which is probably her highest honor to date. She is also a runner and enjoys knitting and sewing. She lives in the Chicago suburbs with her husband, 2 kids, and a very loud beagle. You can follow her on Instagram at Allie Samberts Writes, read her blog at alliesamberts.substack.com, and get other updates at alliesamberts.com. Allie, hello and welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I'm so glad to have you here. Today we're going to be talking about Common Ground, your recent release.
Awesome.
So how about you dive right in and tell us about it for those who haven't had a chance to pick it up yet?
Sure. So Common Grounds is a standalone contemporary romance, and it's about a coffee shop owner who takes over his grandfather's coffee shop. His grandfather opened it in the 50s, and he sort of takes that over after his grandfather and his father pass away. And he is struggling in the current economic climate to have this small business in a downtown area where there's a lot of other larger businesses coming in that are sort of, taking customers away from him. And then he meets the love interest, and she is a lifestyle reporter for an online web magazine. And so she kind of hates her job. She used to be at a larger newspaper and she was laid off. So she's a little grumpy about it. And they meet and they kind of team up, and she pitches a series of articles to her boss about this coffee shop and trying to get people in the door and save the shop. And I guess, spoiler alert, they fall in love. So that's basically what it's about.
A romantic story with love in it? Who would have thought?
I know. It's groundbreaking, truly. But
absolutely. Yeah. And, it's kind of like, almost like has a Hallmark feel-good story vibe to it, which I love.
Yeah. Kind of, I guess, like maybe Hallmark movie meets like You've Got Mail with the, the big shop and the little shop. And
Yes. Oh, I remember that one. And oldie but a goodie.
Yeah. Still relevant.
Yes. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your inspirations for writing Common Grounds?
Sure. So this is kind of a fun story because I saw my cover designer designs pre-made covers too, and she just posts them every once in a while. And they're brilliant. They're gorgeous. And so every once in a while, I'll just kind of, scroll through them and just look at them longingly, like, oh, I really like this one. I really like this one. And I found this cover, and I think she had posted it. I think it was up there for a while. And so I kept kind of coming back to it and looking at it and like, oh, I really like it. I really like it. And she had a sale on her pre-made covers. And so I bought it because I was like, well, I like it. So it's happening. I didn't have a story for it. I had no idea what I was going to use it for. But at the time I was writing The Right Choice, which is the 3rd book in my trilogy. And The Right Choice is a heavier book. And so I needed a break from it. And so I started just kind of messing around. I was like looking at the cover and I was like, oh, he's a hipster. He owns a coffee shop for sure. Right. And she has like the little like red kitten heels and like really dark hair. And I was like, oh, she's probably grumpy, and he's a little lighter, so he's probably sunshiny. And, so I was kind of going through like different scenarios that I could kind of put these like fake characters on the cover in. And so I just sort of came up with that premise, and I started writing some of the scenes as kind of a break from the right choice, because that was, it was difficult to write. And so I just kind of needed a funny break. And so I was just basically writing whatever came to mind. Like if you think about authors writing funny moments where they just sort of, they're like outlandish, like things are just happening and they're so ridiculous. They're like, where do they come up with this? Like I was just throwing stuff out there. I figured none of it would make it to print because I was like, this is so wild. But it ended up just being so fun to write that once I finished The Right Choice and published it, I jumped right back in and finished it up. So I guess you could say my inspiration was the cover, which
I
is
love
kind of
that.
weird. I guess it's sort of backwards.
It is backwards. Yeah. But it's really interesting and a unique way of approaching writing a novel by really moving backwards, starting with the cover and then creating the story and the characters to match the cover.
Yeah, I mean, I can say definitively that I've never been happier with a cover because it fits the book so well.
Yes, it's almost like the book was made for that cover.
Yeah. Which I think it happens too when the cover is made for the book, right? But I think when you go that route, there's always little tweaks that you're like, oh, that's not quite what I was picturing, or I was thinking about this a little bit differently. But yeah, when you start with the cover, it's sort of perfect.
Yeah. And sometimes, as you said, working on trying to capture the perfect cover is a challenge because it never quite fits what it is you're looking for unless you yourself are a designer or artist, putting in that kind of work yourself. And I know, you work for yourself, you publish independently. This is something that is especially true with like traditional published writers, is trying to create that cover that is approved by the publisher to fit what you imagined with your story. So that is one extra bonus that you have with independent publishing. And that's one of the reasons why you decided to publish yourself initially, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of reasons. I'm really impatient. And I know that the traditional publishing process can take a really, really long time. And I think that's great if you want to go that route. Like maybe one day I'll make that choice too. But yeah, I'm kind of impatient, and I am also a control freak. And I don't know, romance, especially romantic comedy right now, it's such a hot genre to independently publish. Like people are, I guess, willing to read independently published rom-coms because they kind of devour them on KU, on Kindle Unlimited. And so I really like just kind of having control over it and being able to make those choices on my own and, be my own boss in that way.
And that's something that we talk about a lot on this podcast, is the comparisons as well as the benefits to both forms of publishing. And, we truly believe that there is no wrong way to publish a story. Get your work out there in whatever way feels best for you. So we really do talk a lot about the pros and cons of both types of publishing, and not really in a you should do this kind of way, but just I love to give authors a chance to share not just their experiences, but what works for them and what opinions they have for it. So I always love asking everyone, why'd you choose this form of publishing and why does this work best for you?
Yeah, I think there are now, I don't think this was the case probably. I mean, I know independent publishing has been a thing for a long time, but I think now, especially with the advent of, Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, and, it's become a lot easier and more accessible for people to take this route. And there's like as many entry points to publishing as there are people who want to be published. And I think that's great. I have friends that are fully indie. I have friends that are indie to trad and trad to indie and hybrid. And There are as many ways to do it as there are people doing it. And I think that's really cool. So I don't think there's one right way to do it. I love being an indie author right now, because I also have another full-time job. And so I'm sort of on my own timeline, and I am my own boss, and I'm making my own choices and doing my own thing. And that's been really empowering for me. Because right now this is, it's not my full-time gig. And so for me, this has been the right choice for now. And like I said, who knows down the line what might happen or where this might go. But for right now, I think this is the choice for me.
And that really brings us into my next question, which is about your writing process and how do you navigate working both full time as well as being a parent and releasing, you now have 4 books out. So how do you find that kind of balance in between these different aspects of your life?
So I think balance for me is more about like what I am prioritizing at any given time, right? So I'm a teacher. I teach high school. And so, I try to clear my schedule when school starts because I know it's just going to be madness. And I have 2 small kids who are also in school. So, and my husband is also a teacher. So we are all just like on the academic year cycle. So, once mid-August rolls around, that's when we start. I just clear my schedule for the rest of August, and I'm not doing any writing. I'm not doing any editing. I'm just like not focused on that. My daughter is also a dancer, and so she has like dance competitions in the spring. So when that stuff rolls around, it's like clear March because it's not, I'm not doing anything in March. So I think, but then when I get to write, when I get to focus on those things, and that's not saying I'm not writing during those times, because of course I am. It's in my blood. Like I can't not, I can't not do it, but I'm just not focused on it, right? Like my focus is my classroom and my kids and my, getting us back to the swing of things and like sleeping when I can. And so, like I'm still writing a little bit, but it's just, I'm not like doing anything really intense with it. But then when we kind of settle into the new routine, the new school year, and things are kind of dying down, then I can focus a little bit more on the writing and the editing and the publishing aspects of things. So I just sort of try, like balance for me is not about being able to do everything every day. It's being able to do everything at certain points in my year. Which does require a giant planner and a lot of calendar time. I am like a really organized person, which might be like a good thing about me, but also a fatal flaw, like my toxic trait. Like it's one and the same. Because I love a good calendar. And I will spend hours with it, just trying to like move stuff around and plan stuff out. But once I get stuff kind of penciled in, it usually works out that way, pretty close. So, for me, just finding that balance is finding certain times to prioritize certain things and come back from certain things, and, like making sure that I am able to do all of the things that I want to do, with the time that I have. So.
And so when it comes to when you do have the time to actually sit down and write, how do you approach your novel work? Are you more of a planner, a plotter? Do you just kind of fly by the seat of your pants? How do you tackle your story structures?
Yes, all of the above. My characters do what they want. I tried outlining and I stick to the basic story structure. Like if I have a scene, they call them like tent pole scenes because it's like they're holding up the tent, of your story. And those scenes usually make it into the book, right? Because those are like really, pinnacle scenes that you're using to like further the plot. It's the stuff that happens in between that I'm like, do you really want to do this here? Okay, sure. But as long as it sort of gets me to that next part. So I also have to say it kind of depends on the book, right? Common Grounds was really just me. Like I said, it was me just starting to like write stuff and throw it out there and see what sticks. And the characters kind of developed as I went, and then I went back and added a lot of, the stuff I figured out about them later, I added into the beginning. So it made more sense. Um, my debut novel, I knew exactly how that was going to go from start to finish. So, it just, I think it depends on the book and it depends on the character. It just depends on what mood I'm in. I'm like a mood reader and a mood writer, in all different forms. And so like, if I am feeling, you know, like a funny scene, then it's like, well, that's what we're writing today, and we'll just fit it in later. And if I'm feeling like really, I said I was really organized and structured, but that's only like in planning my time. That's not planning the book. And maybe that's because I need an outlet that's a little chaotic. I don't know, so.
Well, and it really brings balance. You've got the part of you that is very structured, and then you have your creative side where you can kind of just let things flow and, throw things out there and see what sticks, as you said. And it allows you to try a lot of new things and kind of just play around with your writing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it totally does. And I think that's a good way to put it, because it is like playing for me. And I think that's another benefit to not having this be my full-time job, is that I can just play around, and it's fun, and I always tell people that like, once it stops being fun, then I'm going to stop doing it, because it's supposed to be like, it's supposed to be fun.
Absolutely. And having it not be, your full-time work allows it to just keep being fun and allows you to keep just playing with it and enjoying the process.
Yeah, exactly.
So before Common Ground, you released a trilogy. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that one?
Sure. So, there are three books, they're interconnected standalones. So, I kind of hesitate to call it a trilogy, even though that's how we've been referring to it, because they're not, you can read them in any order. They do chronologically go in order, but you can kind of pick them up. Like they all fall in love in the end. There's no spoilers. So like, when you see a couple that's like married, you're like, oh, the couple from the first book is married. You're not like, what? How dare you? That was where it was headed. So there are three books called The Right Place, The Right Time, and The Right Choice. And right is spelled WRITE, because I love a good pun. And they start with a teacher, a high school English teacher, which is what I am. So, I was writing what I knew. And a famous writer, he kind of follows her, he shadows her in her classroom for 6 weeks, and they fall in love. And then the next book is her best friend, who is also a teacher, and then she's falling in love with another teacher at the school. And then the third book kind of flips and goes with the first male main character's best friend. So we like kind of flip on the other side.
No.
And his wife. And so it's a marriage in crisis book. So I was playing around with those two, and I just wanted to hit a bunch of different tropes and sort of try a bunch of different things, because I was just starting out, and sort of see what I liked and see what clicked with my readers. And so those books are kind of fun too.
I honestly love the idea of interconnected standalones, and that seems to be just really popular right now. So many authors are putting works out like that. I think it is especially popular amongst indie authors right now as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't when I wrote my first book, I never really intended for this to be a series of interconnected standalones. Like, I had some ideas, and I knew I wanted to do a marriage in crisis later on, and I knew I wanted to do like coworkers. I love a good workplace romance. My husband and I work in the same place, so that might be why we didn't meet there, but we work together, so that maybe that's why, I don't know. But so when I wrote the first book, The Right Place, my beta readers were reading it, and they were like, oh, so, Jenny gets a story next, right? And I was like, sure. I was like, okay. And since I'm an indie author, I can do what I want. So I was like, oh yeah, all right,
Exactly.
sure. So I sat down and I wrote it, and I wrote that one in like 3 months. It went really fast.
Wow.
I just was having so much fun with it. And so that just kind of came pouring out. I was like, oh, sure, that's fine. That works out. And so, I guess I didn't intend to do that, but it happened. Common Grounds is a standalone, and I have zero plans. Like, I'm going to say it publicly. I have zero plans to give any of these side characters their own story. I love the side characters in Common Grounds. A lot of people do, and a lot of people have been asking me if, a couple of them are getting their own story, and I have no plan. I never say never, right? But I just really liked it as a standalone because there weren't a lot of things that I had to like tie up or keep track of for future books. I was just like, we're just going to do it. And then it's going to be done,
Yeah. Well, and having a standalone after the interconnected series, I mean, that makes total sense. You got to kind of try something different. And, that's the whole point of playing around with your writing, is trying different things. So if you were always continuously doing interconnected stories, then you're not really experimenting with something new.
Yeah, I think that's true. And again, like, I can see how some of these side characters could develop into, fully fledged novels, or maybe even like a little novella somewhere down the line. But you're right. It is something new. And it felt really refreshing. By the time I got to my third in the interconnected series, I was like going back to the first, going like, oh God, what did I say about this? And how did this happen? And I just got so, I don't want to say like sick of it, but I just, I was over it. I was like, oh, time for something else, So
yeah, it does put in an extra layer of work there for you. And as you said, you got to keep it fun.
yeah. Yeah.
I kind of wonder if part of the reason that interconnected standalones are so popular amongst indies as compared to trad authors is just because of, the speed of indie publishing compared to traditional publishing. It's just much easier to put them out there and have them be tied together. Whereas, trying to do something like that with trad publishing, I mean, it can easily take 18 months or, a couple of years for a follow-up novel to be published, if it even is published.
I think, my first thought, I went to Christina Lauren. They just released the True Love Experiment last summer. And that was it's like a duology with the Soulmate Equation, I think it was. And I haven't read the Soulmate Equation. I only read the True Love Experiment, and I loved it. It was so good. But I think they had books, like several books in between those two. But readers, if they like your books, they'll eat it up. I don't know if it matters, but yeah, I think it is really popular with indies. I think because we have the ability to be really responsive to reader requests. And so when people are messaging me like, oh, does Mike get his own book? And I'm like, maybe if enough people ask me for it, maybe, but I can do that because I can make that choice. And I think if you're a really successful traditional author like Christina Lauren, like, they can probably make that choice too. And their publisher's like, you write gold, so go for it, go do whatever you want. So yeah, I think, but yeah, when readers, I think that's one of the cool things about being an author, is that when readers want something and they want it bad enough, you're kind of like, all right, I can do, you can be responsive like that to your readers. And I think that's cool. So.
And I think just because of that alone, like, readers are, not only do they not really care how a book is published or who it's published by, but they are oftentimes, and I see this happening more and more, they are oftentimes more interested in supporting independent authors than they are with trad authors these days. And I think part of that is just because, like, you can get stuff out so much faster. And it's kind of comes from the whole, shopping small, supporting small businesses, that kind of line of thinking. And I think there's just a lot more support for independent authors just in the last couple of years because of this.
Yeah, I think kind of going back to that being responsive to your readers thing too, that like indie authors are able to publish books that have a lot more representation in them, I think, because we're not beholden to the market like data. I haven't traditionally published anything. So I don't have this, I can't speak from experience, but I do know that, from talking to my friends who are going the traditional route, that it is way more about how is this going to sell? How can we market it? What are the comp titles? And as an indie author, I'm just kind of like, well, I wanted to see A Marriage in Crisis because I am married and I have kids, and I wanted them to have kids, and so I wanted to write it, and so I wrote it. That was just I'm writing the kind of books that I want to see, and I think that's my readers are like me, and so they want to see those things too. And I think, that the support comes from a lot of it, I think comes from being able to see yourself in these books and feeling represented. And I think that's one of the really awesome things that indie publishing is doing, is that they're also kind of moving the needle on the traditional published books too. They're like opening some more gateways for kind of non-traditional stories in the traditionally published world, which is really cool.
I absolutely agree with that. And that's something that has been talked about on Must Love Books before, is just the openness of representation as well as inclusion and diversity in indie books, and how that is kind of pushing trad publishers to kind of make themselves a little more open to representation and diversity in what they publish as well, because they got to keep up with the market. And right now, indie authors are really kind of leading the market. They are forcing change across the board, not just with other indie authors, but with traditional publishers as well.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I'm digging it. Um, whoever really would have thought that, such small voices in quotations, because independent authors were for many years seen as smaller authors, and seeing their voices really change the entire industry is admirable. It's inspiring, and it is something that I don't think many people ever saw coming.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I think, indie authors definitely knew this going in. Probably, I think that's probably why a lot of them decided to independently publish, because their books were a little bit more non-traditional. And so they saw that avenue. I think probably trad publishers may not have seen this coming.
I really
Again, I
don't
don't
think
know a
so.
lot of traditional publishers, but yeah, but I mean, I see it all the time too, where someone, an indie author is like a breakout success and they get a traditional deal. And so you're starting to sort of see these already successful books sort of pushed into the mainstream traditionally published markets, and they're not changing a whole lot, right? When they go through another
Mhm.
edit, they're not changing a lot because they're already doing really well. They're well loved. People already love them and they want more of that, but they don't want to see those books change. They don't want to see a whole lot of what they love be like kind of washed out of it in that editing process. And so I think there's just a lot of ways that indie authors are moving the needle, and it's really cool.
And I think that's very clearly evidenced by how many indie authors are being approached by bigger publishers to have their works republished through them. And it shows also just like how successful independent publishing has really gotten just in the last, like, I want to say like since 2020. And maybe the pandemic, it plays a role in that. Maybe it just happened to be that time, but it just in the last 4 years, I mean, independent publishing has skyrocketed and really just led a charge in publishing and in connecting with readers as well.
Yeah, I entered the scene just last year in 2023, so I can't really speak to that. And I honestly, I mean, I know I was reading indie books before that, but I don't think I knew what that meant, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I just had Kindle Unlimited and I just downloaded stuff that looked cute and I would read it in, a matter of hours because I was working from home and my kids were home, and because you said like pandemic, right? And we had some extra time where we weren't commuting and stuff. And so I was able to kind of get back into reading at that time, which I think this is probably not a unique story, right? Where people subscribed to Kindle Unlimited because it was sort of cheaper to be able to get books that way. And then you find your indie authors that way. And do you know they're indie? Do you care they're indie? No, probably not. I certainly didn't. Now I do because I know. And I like to support my friends, and people who are in this business with me. But at the time I was like, oh, this looks cute. I'll download it and read it. It's like, oh yeah, this is great. So, yeah, the whole world has changed since 2020. And I think that's definitely one part of it for sure.
Definitely. So we're going to shift gears here and we're going to ask some very difficult questions. We're going to play a game called 5 Things. And sometimes this game is really easy and sometimes it just really, really gets you. So we're going to start off with 5 books that you have read.
Okay. I'm just going to pull up my storygraph here so I can
that's a way to do it.
Ones. Yeah, well, I keep track of them for just such a moment, right? Okay, so do they have to be books or can they be like, can I cheat and give you like series names?
Oh, we can definitely cheat.
Okay, great. As a teacher, I do not condone cheating, but as a person playing this game, all right, so I would say right now, I do love the Bromance Book Club series, all of them by Alyssa K. Adams. They're fantastic. The audiobooks, every single one of them is a hit. Like I loved all of them. I read the Bromance Book Club, which is book 1, because it's a marriage in crisis, and I was sort of like craving that before I wrote The Right Choice. And so that one does hold a special place in my heart because I do love that trope, but they're all so good. And the audiobook narrator, he's fantastic. He's so great. So there's one. These are all going to be romance because that's all I read. Oh no, you know what? Actually, Daisy Jones and the Six, fantastic book, fantastic audiobook. I'm really big into audiobooks lately because my commute has like doubled with construction season in Illinois. So yeah, so Daisy Jones and the Six is really cool because that audiobook has a full cast. Am I giving you too much information?
You are fine. You're doing perfect.
Okay. Let's see. So obviously Crescent City, it took me forever to read that third one because I was kind of scared of it, to be honest. I was so nervous about it. Have you read it?
I have not. They're sitting on my shelf, but I have not gotten to them at this time.
Okay, so you haven't read any of them?
None of them.
Okay, so I'm not going to say anything. Have you avoided spoilers?
I actually have avoided spoilers. I have heard nothing.
You're good. If you avoid spoilers, you're really good. I avoided spoilers on the third one too, because I was the same way. I was like, as soon as I saw like artwork, I was like, keep scrolling, just keep scrolling. Don't look at it. But I did finish that one recently and I really liked it. I know people have had really mixed feelings about it, but I did enjoy it. What is that, 3? Is that 3 now?
Yeah, that sounds like 3.
Okay, sure. You're like, sure.
We got 2 more.
I also recently finished Fangirl Down by Tessa Bailey. So good. Have you read it?
I have not read that one. I have read a couple other Tessa Bailey's, which I'm really enjoying. I don't do a whole ton of like sports themed kind of romance at all. I've done a couple here and there. It's just not my favorite trope.
Yeah. So like, I realize that I have just said Bromance Book Club and they're all sports players. No, they're not all sports players, but a lot of them are. And Fangirl Down. I am also not a sports romance person, but I really, maybe I am. Maybe I've unlocked a new trope that I really love. But yeah, I don't like golf and I do not like sports. And but I picked up Fangirl Down and man, I was obsessed with that book. I still have like a book hangover from that one. It was so good. I don't know what she put in that thing, but it was awesome. And then I'm kind of in I'm kind of towards the end of what's been released of the Leveling Up series by K.F. Breene. I also really love fantasy romance. I guess that makes sense because I said Crescent City, but that series is really cool because her main characters are in their 40s. And I love to see it. My main characters in Common Grounds are older too, and I love it. I think that's awesome. Your life doesn't end when you turn 35. So
yeah, it's refreshing to see a lot of newer books coming out and gaining popularity with older characters. Not everyone is, 22 years old anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I love that about Common Grounds too, that those characters are older, not to like, plug my own book again, but
It's your episode. Plug away.
You're right. But I do really love that about those characters because I will be 40 in June. And they're still like they act the same because I don't feel like I act different than I did when I was in my 20s. I just know more about it. I'm doing the same things for different reasons. But they're still goofballs. Like they're still fun and they still like are falling in love and like doing all these things. They just have like more backstory to them. And I think that's fun. It's cool. So yeah, seeing that is really awesome. More older characters. That's what
Yes, definitely. So that kind of leads us into the next one, which is 4 genres or tropes you can mix and match.
So I feel like I've been kind of cheating on that too, because I've already mentioned a lot of tropes that I like. Okay, so I'm gonna say enemies to lovers and friends to lovers, which is cheating. Like that's 2. So I'm not really cheating.
It is 2. They are different, and I love them both as well.
Yeah, friends to lovers to me is a harder sell because the enemies to lovers and the banter, you have the banter. It's just chef's kiss, it's top notch. But the friends to lovers, man, you get to the end of a good friends to lovers and you're just like, oh, I love them. They're so good together. Friends to lovers, I think is easier to do poorly.
Yeah, I think it is.
Right? Because you're sitting there the whole time wondering like, they've been friends for how long? Like, why are they just getting together now? And so like, if the author doesn't answer that question well, I think it is easier to do poor. Enemies to lovers, you're like, oh yeah, sign me up. Like you're going to fall in love and I know it. That's cool. But the friends to lovers, so when friends to lovers is done well, I'm like, I'm in it. I don't know if I consider this a trope, but I think, well, I guess it could be a trope or a plot point. Can I include a plot point?
Yeah.
I love a good third act breakup. Like I know that
really?
I am probably, yeah, I love them. I will write them forever. Give me a good one. I mean, I get it, right? I understand why people don't like it because sometimes they feel so forced just to like shove that in there and you're like, oh, come on. Like just talk to each other.
Right. But when it's done well, and it hurts.
Yes. Right. I think people don't want to get hurt. And I get that. I totally get that. Right. But man, is it satisfying when they work that out and they get to the end and you're like, you know what? They're going to make it.
Yeah, I definitely can see that.
Yeah. So I love it. I love a good third act breakup. So yeah. And then it's hard to pick just one more. That's the problem. Right.
Well, you have mentioned Marriage in Crisis like multiple times now. So I think that one kind of has to like automatically be on your list, right?
Yeah, I was trying not to pick that one because I felt like I had already talked about it a lot. But yeah, I do love a good Marriage in Crisis. I realize that those are hard to do well too because again, you're like, well, they're married, so they're already together. what are we doing here for 300 pages? So I get that, but yeah, that's a good one. I do really love that one.
So next we have 3 authors that you always read.
So here's where I'm going to plug my indie author pals, right?
Do it. Give them to us.
So Larissa Padilla, she's written 2 so far. Till You Came Along, Until I Reach You, and her books make me cry.
Aww.
And I love a good cry. Like, give me all the angst. So hers are really great. She's also an amazing graphic designer. She does a lot of my artwork, character artwork. So she's awesome. Stephanie Stack, I love her. Her stories are so cute. And she's working on like a cowboy romance, which is not my thing also, but I do also read a lot of them. It's sort of like the sports romance where I say it's not my thing, but then I keep reading them.
It's not my thing, and now I'm going to read 10 of them.
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm really excited for that one. I did get to read it early, so I will, say that. So I'm excited for that one. And then Hannah Bird and I are very good friends too. We kind of beta read, alpha read each other's books. And her books also make me cry. I think I like a good cry. Is that a trope? Can I add that one? Books that make
it's
me
a
cry.
bonus.
Yeah.
Crying, a bonus.
I like to cry. But yeah, her books are really emotional, and she writes women with trauma very well. And so I think, again, the representation, right? Being able to see that represented is really cool. So
Excellent. Next is 2 places that you love to read.
So I love audiobooks in my car because I hate driving.
It counts.
And like I said, so I love audiobooks in my car. It like relaxes me. It gives me something else to focus on. And it is a nice, like, kind of liminal space between my house and my job, and then my job and my house. You know, I get to kind of reset while listening to a book, which is cool. And then I love to read outside in my backyard. I have this giant backyard, and it's just peaceful and warm, and we have like a little, the little patio umbrella.
Yeah.
It's really nice. And my kids play out there, so it's kind of like everybody gets some fun time.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It sounds cozy. And now for our last one book you promise to read soon.
Oh my God. Like, I can't. I've been dreading this question, because I don't know. Okay, hang on. I'm going to pull up my Storygraph again. I don't know. Are you on Storygraph? Because if you're not, you should be.
I need to get on it. I've been on Goodreads for 2 years, I want to say. And I keep saying I'm going to get on Storygraph, and then I never do it. So I'm going to say it again. I'm going to get on Storygraph. And I'll let you know if I actually do it.
Do it.
I need
it's
to.
So
I
fun.
like all the charts that I see on like Instagram at the end of the year when everyone's, sharing their year of reading. I just love seeing all the little the graphs that Storygraph gives you.
Yeah. If you're a data nerd, it's awesome. I understand why people don't want to look at their data on there. I mean, mine is like, what did you read this year? Fiction, 100%. And I'm like, oh, that's like not exciting. Romance, all of the above. Yeah, I know. Okay, so again, a whole series, because I'm a cheater. Oh my, I can't remember the series name, but the books by Kelson Denise Stone. I think that series starts with Water Under the Bridge, and they just finished that series. There's 4 books. I have been dying to read those, so I promise that I'm going to read them. I'm going to read them this summer.
Do it.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
I also like to finish or wait until a series is finished before I pick the first one up, because I hate waiting. It hurts. It hurts so bad.
Well, luckily with your indie authors, you don't have to wait.
I know. Yeah. My indies, they can churn them out for me.
Yeah.
It's just, waiting on George R.R. Martin to finish A Song of Fire and Ice, that one hurts.
Yeah. That might be like back to our earlier conversation about interconnected standalones, but that might be why they're so popular, because even if you do have to wait, you're not waiting for there's no cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Right? The book
And
concludes.
you get a full story, and then you're just waiting for another full story, but you do get an ending.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. Well, there we have it. That's our 5 things. You did it. You survived. Well, I want to thank you again so much for coming on Must Love Books today to talk about Common Grounds. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, it's been really fun. Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. And do you have anything that you want to say before I let you go?
Read Common Grounds.
There we go. There you have it. Plain and simple. Just go read Common Grounds. All right. You have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. This has been Must Love Books. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon under @MustLoveBooksPodcast. Thank you and happy reading.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. It's the Sleep Number Everything Smart Bed sale. Every smart bed and base are on sale during our Memorial Day event. Up to 50% off, plus free home delivery. Limited time. Exclusively the Sleep Number store near you. Learn more at sleepnumber.com.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.